I'm Dan Albers, and welcome to Dingo and a Coach. I am Dingo, and that is the coach, Steve Ellis. And Steve, we got a good podcast. We had a lot of great podcasts that we just had with Catherine Nero, and we had one unfortunately with Pat that got canceled, but we're going to have him come on. The one I'm kind of looking forward to is we're going to do our first live podcast, and it's going to be at the Anderson Hall of Fame. And I heard it's sold out. Like it's going to be a big event, and I can't wait to get there to interview some of those people that have been previous, either played in Anderson or in the Hall of Fame or whatever. It's going to be a fun night.
Well, yeah, either people that we've already interviewed or more people that we want to get on the podcast. So it'll be interesting. If you want to, go ahead and apologize now, because live broadcast, who knows what happens.
Exactly. We're going to go ahead and talk that. But hey, what I'm really excited about, Steve, is this episode is brought to you by Burn Boot Camp Anderson Township. Yep. If you're looking for a new gym, for a new workout routine, give Burn Boot Camp Anderson Township a try. Right now, you'll get all the amenities of a full-blown membership free for 7 days. They offer one-on-one personal training in a group setting, complimentary child watch for children's 8 weeks to 12 years old. The workouts are never the same, so you don't get bored. And there's a great mix of strength and cardio, so you'll get a full workout. Burn A-Town has more than 500 members, including myself, my wife, and many of my family and friends. And Steve, you did it too as well. And you'll feel the support you need from the team and the community to reach your goals. And so give them a call or text them at 513-600-2518 to get signed up today, and tell them Dingo and the coach sent you. And while you're signing up for things, be sure to hit subscribe our button below here on the YouTube channel to subscribe to our channel to kind of help us out. But Boone Burke Camp is an awesome place. I go every probably 4 to 5 times a week. The trainers are absolutely. We've interviewed Kelsey and Cassie, great trainers, and you've been a part of it, Steve. It's a pretty tough workout.
It is, and it's great to have that discipline to go, and I'm so proud of you for going. But I tell you, you're along with everyone else. It actually changes lives.
Absolutely.
I mean,
there's no doubt about it.
You look at your wife, you look at your sister, and
your niece,
and Kristen. Yeah, there's some people you can talk that it's just great, and the people there are so friendly and helpful. So that's half the battle right there.
Yeah, so we really appreciate them sponsoring us, and we really do, and we look forward to keeping the sponsorship with them. So, but Steve, let's go ahead and get into our couple topics. We got a lot of stuff that we want to talk about real quick. We want to talk about both the women's and the men's Final Four. We want to talk about your run with UC Clermont and their national championship. A great run, and we want to talk about we had Keith O'Brien. Here's the book that we got, the Charlie Hustle book that we interviewed him, and it was a great catching up with him, and he is just blowing up right now. Talk about that a little bit. Well, I'm going to talk about the Kelsey podcasts that are coming. They're doing a live podcast coming to the spring game here for UC. Right. And then the one thing that we want to talk about, and we're going to try to do a live podcast on that here in the studio. We did this way back when with the quarterbacks at Anderson. We're going to do the top running backs in Anderson high school history. Steve, it's tough.
It is
a very, very tough one. We're going to list some names. There's some names we're going to have obviously off there, but we're going to name some of the ones but we want everybody, as they're listening to this podcast, to chime in and give us their 2 cents worth, and we'll combine everything together kind of like we did with the quarterbacks.
Well, yes, either they, some players that we didn't talk about here today, or if we mention somebody, if they were to respond and say, that's definitely top 2 or 1, or wherever they think they would rank them in the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be good. So let's go ahead and get started with our women's Final Four. Steve, I want to tell you something. I've been one of those guys that have never really followed the women's game as closely here recently until probably this year. And the women's viewership that they had for the Iowa and the UConn game was 14.2 million viewers, most viewed for a women's game, and the largest audience for an ESPN broadcast besides football. See, that just shows that the popularity, and Caitlin Clark has a lot to do with that. But man, the women's game is just blown up.
The talent is really, because usually, even at the Division I level, it's usually like one player that stands above, and in this case is the same way. But the supporting cast is just also unbelievably good too.
Yeah, it's been kind of fun to watch. Caitlin Clark, I kind of watched that game a little bit, and she was really struggling in that first half with UConn, and then she ended up, a game for 21 points, had a lot of assists, but still, Caitlin Clark is pretty good. But UConn players they're always good. Gino, they've done a really good job. But one thing I want to talk about, Steve, and I know you as a coach, there was a lot of stink about the illegal screen that they called on UConn at the end of the game. Yeah. I think it was a good call. But here's the problem that everybody's having is it's not called all during the games. It happens in your games that I have witnessed that they don't call illegal screens all the time when they are really illegal screens.
Right.
They're not consistent with it. And I don't care what anybody says, well, that's the wrong time to call it. No, it's not. Yeah. It was an illegal screen. And you agree? I mean, I don't care what the timing is.
I do agree. And just to compare, it would be like NFL with the offensive lineman, you can call holding every single play, but you don't. You just call the absolute obvious that actually changes a play.
Right.
And that screen, her leg is extended,
and she extended her arms,
and it changed the play. It got that player. So I mean, obviously, it's unfortunate that they think that changes the game, the outcome, but that was the right call.
Yeah, and the timing of it doesn't matter, like you said. It just doesn't matter. I mean, it should be called all the time, and it's not. And
agreed.
It's unfortunate, but I'll tell you what, the women's game has really been fun to watch. And I think, do they play tonight?
No,
because the men play Monday, and I think they play tonight. And it's South Carolina who's been on a roll too. So South Carolina and Iowa should be I'm sure it's going to get a lot of viewership.
Well, I mean, if you're knee deep into it, everybody knows who South Carolina is. But I think they've been kind of, for the outsiders like you and I, they've kind of been overlooked because of
Caitlin Clark,
because of LSU,
right?
And I mean, it's just crazy. And you have a coach in LSU that wears the funky outfits. On the
she's getting a lot of bad pub right now too.
Yeah,
with all the the things that she's had, and the national anthem, and she's had a lot of stuff. You gonna sneeze?
No.
Okay, I thought you were getting ready to.
Yeah.
Steve's got those serious allergies, and boy, I tell you what, when he sneezes, watch out. It'll scare you.
I'm good.
So, and then let's flip it over to the men's Final Four. You've got UConn and Purdue, and I'll tell you what, I've never been a big Danny Hurley fan. Never. I don't really like him. I don't like how he acts on the sidelines. It's one of those ones that if he's your coach, you love him, and when he's outside. But he's done a phenomenal job of getting those guys, and with all the NIL crap that goes on, and trying to keep guys and trying to get into play, he's done a pretty darn good job.
Well, I tell you the most impressive thing, because he talks a lot, but he also backs it up. And the most impressive video, and it's out there, all you got to do is Google his name, I'm sure it'll come up, is his first year when he was at Connecticut. They were getting blown out, and they were like 500. And after one of the games, I guess a reporter had asked him, what do you think's going to change or whatever? And his response was, "You better get us now because it's coming."
Yeah. That's the side of cockiness that he has.
Yeah, but look what happened. I mean, it was like
and it's funny too is that they were just struggling in the AAC, couldn't beat anybody, and then they go to the Big East, and it made a difference. A bigger conference, better athletes, and he is a good coach. I mean, don't get me wrong.
He's got the players.
He's a good coach. And then on the flip side of it, Purdue made it with Zach or the Edey, and a lot of people are saying, "Oh, he's just a college player. He's not a good pro." Do you agree with that? I mean,
I think he's at worst a serviceable pro.
Right.
He's a little slow for me for the pro game, but I mean, what he's slow at, he offsets with how long he is and how tall he can do, because you can't block his shot. It's almost going back to the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, if everybody remembers
the hook shot.
Yeah. And his is not really hooky. He just kind of leads up and jumps up at his height. So he's extremely hard to guard.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be an interesting battle to see how that goes. I mean, pretty much UConn has blown everybody out.
Right.
I think last night was one of the closest ones they've had in a while. Just that run they had against Illinois.
Was
outscored them 30-0 at one point. I mean, that's so they're pretty good. So should be an interesting game tomorrow to see. Well, actually,
I can't wait.
Yeah, so see how that.
It'll be Monday night.
And that's the only thing I hate about that too, Steve. Is I'm in bed pretty early now, so I can't even stay up and watch the whole thing anymore.
Yeah, well, I agree with you on that. That's why you can tape it and watch it. If
we can figure out how to tape it,
that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty technically challenged even with this stuff. Yeah,
record.
Reel to reel. So let's get into our other topic here that we had, and that was Keith O'Brien, who right here, you see this book here. we interviewed him, and he is a Cincinnati guy from St. X High School, and he talked about the rise and fall of Pete Rose. And I actually, Steve, you had your basketball obligations, and I went to see him and he did a talk at Joseph Beth Books.
Yeah, tell us about that.
It was really cool. If you guys all remember, it was the night of the storm, so the weather was kind of iffy. Didn't know whether people were going to come. He still had a really, really good crowd, but he just talked about Pete Rose, basically kind of what's in the book, and talked about some people asked some really, really good questions, like they asked if Johnny Bench did not want to have anything to do with this interview, anything. He didn't
with the book.
He didn't want anything to do with it, and he told us on air that he really thought that if Pete came to right in the beginning, that he still thinks Pete might have been in baseball. There was a possibility they could have been in baseball because at the time, I don't, you know what I mean? Did you get that same impression that he said that he might have?
Yeah, but I mean, who knows? I mean, because everything that had transpired, and I tell you what amplified the whole thing is that the guy that banned him died like a month later, or whatever it was, Giamatti. And
people think that Pete caused his heart attack, which it just kills me, it just kills me, and so I started reading the book. I haven't obviously finished it. It's a pretty big read, but I started reading it, and I didn't know that his first contract was only $7,000.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, so he was, I don't even think he was that good in high school.
He got cut for football, so he didn't really, and then he stayed back a year, and then he had to play summer ball basically to get him noticed.
Right.
And then his uncle helped him out
he knew a Red Scout, or his uncle was a Red Scout, one of the two.
And helped him out and got that. And like Eddie Brinkman, who was playing there at the time, got like a $70,000 back then. $70,000 back in the 50s is just unheard of.
Right,
I was getting more money than Ted Williams and all those guys at the time. And he signed with the Senators, who were a new team. So for Pete and his dad was trying to say, no, we're not going to do it. And Pete's like, no, I'm going. I'm ready to go. Let's go. And that's just Pete. But you need to read the book. It talks about the good and the bad, and just talks about it. And Keith doesn't really sway one way or the other on what it is. But
there's a lot in here.
I'm telling you, man. It's just a great. So far, it's hard to put down. I mean, it's a good book, but Steve, he's already on the New York bestseller already. I mean, just like he's blowing up, and you see he's done a lot of podcasts. He's done, as you can see, Steve's got it there, and it's just a great book. So far, it's been a great read. I mean, it's been fun, and it was just to think about his Keith's time. Like, he's nonstop, man. He was in Columbus, and then he came to Cincinnati for 2 days. And I can't remember. He started in New York. I mean, he goes, Steve, I think until June, I think.
Well, and he's going to earn every penny he gets.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to know anything about him, you go to KeithOB.com. He's got his bio on there. Talks about the Pete book, where he's at, what's going on. It's great read. Great dude. Great guy. Yeah. And we'll post some of that information too for you again. But
local guy.
Yeah, local guy from St. X. We screwed that up in the.
Now, when you say we,
it was me.
Okay.
Yeah, but it would have been nice to back me up and kind of help me edit the thing, but you didn't. You decided not to do that. So. All right, so let's get into your talk about your run in the championship, man. I tell you what, you had a great year, number 1 seed. You made it all the way to the championship, and man, you were. I believe at the time, I remember looking at the clock, 8 minutes to go. You had a 9-point lead, and I kept saying, "Man, come on, clock, just keep running."
I was saying the same thing.
And unfortunately. They didn't hit a 3 all game, and then in between that 8-minute run, they hit a 3-pointer, and I think that was kind of the difference at the end of the game. It changed
the game a little bit.
Yeah.
No, we had a great run, and we had a great season. We're actually getting together this afternoon on Sunday to honor our guys, and I mean, it was a great season, great fun team to coach. We were never out, of any game. 23-7, we never lost more than 1 game. Yeah. We go into the tournament, and they losing the championship game by 4 points, and I could give you all kinds of stats. It would be like unbelievable if you would think that we got blown out.
Right.
But with 3 minutes to go, it was tied, and a couple shots go in here, defense, it changes things. But honestly, after the game, I wasn't as disappointed as I thought I would be, I was more shocked that we lost.
Yeah, and I'll throw it out there right now. There's a couple calls, and one that I really, really remember was David Froch going out of bounds, throws it off the guy that was out of bounds, and they did not overturn it, and it was just a horrible call. And that, I think they ended up going down and hit the 3, or they did something right there that was a turning point of the game. It really was a turning point of the game. And the other thing, too, is they went to the free throw line a ton compared to what you did.
Yeah, they went 42 times.
And you went what?
22.
That right there is kind of and they're not a really good free throw shooting team, and they just happen to shoot the lights out that game.
Yeah, going into the game, they averaged 62 or almost 63%. In that game, they shot 81%.
Unbelievable.
And we lost by 4. Yeah. But all in all, I've gotten to the point now where I'm so proud of this team and our season and what we've done. And we broke records for the school. Just everything. Every game was packed, as during the games, and it was it's such a fun atmosphere. And the guys play so hard that it's hard not to cheer for these guys.
And always you had a game where David Froch had a game where it was just on fire in one of your first term, and then he obviously didn't play as well like David Froch can. But then you had Dalton Kramer, who was an All-American, should have been Player of the Year.
Yep.
But you had some great guys that came in and gave you some great times, and it was hard to see the end of that game and the run, because you guys worked so hard, and I'm sure the kids were very disappointed. But it was fun to be a part of, and it was awesome to watch. I just wish it could have ended differently.
Well, and everybody does, and that's the shame of it, because these guys deserve that. They had worked so hard. We had won 2 straight games. It's as everybody knows, it's hard to play 3 straight days.
Right.
And it happens to everybody, but just one of those things just didn't happen that way. But you guys were a huge part of that success. Broadcasting the games. Yeah. Not a lot of schools do that, and it just shows you where our program's at. From top to bottom, how top notch we are.
Yeah, it was you guys obviously you guys as coaches did a great job. Kyle Black getting some of these guys to come in here. You got guys that are going to be gone, and it's going to be sad. Jackson Gregory, David Hunter that have been there for a long time. David Froch been there for a couple years, but you got to, as I say, is you got to keep it rolling. You got to bring new guys in and trust the system.
Well, exactly right, and it's a roller coaster ride. And if we were, this was a year ago, and you would have told me we would have gone as far as we did, I would have been shocked. But we brought guys to the end of that. Ended up we're really good guys, really good teammates, and they pulled it together and played together, and it showed.
Yeah, it was a fun run.
And I just want to say, on top of that, you mentioned Kyle Black. Kyle helps so much with stats, but also in the recruiting aspect of it. But Doug Ass,
absolutely. I didn't mean to leave him out.
No. I mean, just what Doug does. It's crazy. I've been coaching, I guess, going on 30 years, something like that. It sounds like a long time.
Yeah,
but
very long time.
Doug and I have been together for 16 of those years, and I don't know what I would do without him. I mean, he does so much for the program, and so much for me. That he helps in practices, in games, and it's just a great situation we have with both Kyle and Doug.
Well, and just to take off, watching you guys, and a lot of coaches don't let their assistant coaches kind of chime in and do the things they do, but you let Doug kind of tell you, call this, call that, do whatever. Then you let Kyle do the recruiting part of it. So, a lot of coaches don't do that, and you do, and that's a big testament to you too as well.
Well, it's we say, and it's in my speech for this afternoon. It takes a village, and so that's what it is with these guys. And I just love what they do, what they bring, and we're all on the same page.
I want to mention somebody too, is my nephew Daniel Hennessy, because he's brought up a lot with these guys when they during games or during whatever, and how the love that they have for my nephew Daniel, and it warms my heart that Daniel does the stuff that he does, and he loves it, and he loves you, and he loves the guys, and so it's kind of cool that those guys show the respect for Daniel, and Daniel obviously does the same thing for them.
I'll say it till the day I die. He's the heart and soul of the team, without question. I mean, the players go to him for everything, not just the Mike and Ike's candies on the bench, but they love him, and we love him, and he's not your typical team manager per se. I mean, he is a legit part of the team, part of the coaching staff, part of the players, and he's as important as anybody that is on that bench.
Yeah, I agree. So it's great that Daniel, and I think he might have called it quits if you guys won the national championship, but I think he's going to come back again, it seems like.
Well, that's the reason why we lost it, I guess. Because we want him back.
Yeah, so all right, so let's just switch gears, Cody. We got a couple more things.
Thank you for bringing that up, though.
Yeah, no problem, man. You had to. It was a great year. And so let's switch gears now to the Kelsey podcast. Obviously you and I do a lot of podcasts. We love it. Love doing it. These guys are phenomenal, man. Well, I love watching them and hearing about them, and they do some really cool things. And so they're coming here for the spring game, and it's like massive craziness that people are going to this thing, and it's like $100 a ticket.
Is it really?
$100 a ticket.
Travis and Jason, right?
Yeah, Travis and Jason.
I hope it's good weather.
And they're going to have Joe Burrow on their podcast.
I did see that.
And so I think the thing that's cool is that all this money that they raise, I'm pretty sure all of it, that is going to Cincinnati Reigns to help for the NIL money, which is just phenomenal.
Wow.
That they're doing that. Wow. And then it's $1,000 to be in club seats, $1,000 a ticket for club seats. But what I love that Kelsey is just like you and I, they love doing things and joking and laughing. And one of the things that Jason Kelce said that he got inspiration from was, he goes, remember the movie Revenge of the Nerds when they had the jocks versus the nerds?
Yeah.
So they're going to do a contest, and it's going to be jocks versus the engineer. Yes.
No way.
Yeah. So they're going to do something like that. They're going to have fun, do stuff like that. So it's going to be cool to see those guys there at the spring game. I think it might not be at the spring game. It's like the day before, a couple of days before, I think it might be 11th maybe that they're doing that. Okay. And the spring game is that Saturday. But kind of cool that they're doing it and coming to town and helping UC.
Well, it is really cool. And I mean, obviously, we don't like him that he's on the Chiefs.
Right.
But we love if he was on the Bengals. But, I mean, it's a great backstory. If you know anything about him, how when he was at UC with his brother.
Yeah.
And Jones was the coach.
Watch that podcast.
Yeah. And he gets all teary-eyed about it and both of them do, because Butch Jones kicked him off the team because Travis was acting like a knucklehead.
Right.
And Jason went to bat for him and was able to
think about that,
get a second chance. Where would Travis be right now?
Yeah.
Not with Swift, not be a Swiftie.
Yeah, well, I was getting ready to say my USBN sources are telling me Taylor Swift might be there.
Oh, really?
No, I don't know. That'd be crazy if I'm sure that people are going to have signs and thinking that she's going to be there and all that stuff. But I mean, that's another crazy part of that, the whole Swiftie. But I'm telling you what, I love Jason Kelce's wife. She is freaking phenomenal. Yep. I just love him, and I think Jason looks like Daniel. With the beard.
Think about that. Now you say that, yeah, I agree with that.
I think they looked that on. So, but that should be fun to be a part of, to watch that Kelsey podcast and everything. But the one thing that we're going to do our live podcast onto here is our Anderson running backs.
Okay.
And this is going to be hard, and we're probably going to leave some people out. We're just going to give some off the top of our heads right now,
just to get it going.
Yeah, just to get it going. And we want everybody watching this to go ahead and in the comments, first of all, talk about our podcast. Tell us if you like it, the topics, whatever. But then also, if you want to add to any of these guys on the running backs, let us know. So we got to start off with Lou Andriadis, because he kind of started this thing rolling, was Lou Andriadis. Well, you know what? If you want to go really back, go back to John Steele.
Well, he was like one of the first
48
ones in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
right?
First ones in the Hall of Fame. So you got to start with that. I know everybody doesn't really know much about him. Go in there, look at the Hall of Fame. You can even go back on newspapers.com, look all the stuff that he's done. Great, phenomenal runner back in the 48 team when they were winners. So we'll start with him. But then you got to go to the Lou Andriadis, kind of started the role, right?
Okay.
And then you go to Jason Druso. And then you go to Jake Andriadis. Then you go to Jake Davis, PJ Schiano, Joey Sherrill. I mean, there's so many guys on here, but more recent times that just graduated, Brody Berg's got to be on that discussion now. I mean, he's set the all-time record for most touchdowns scored. Yeah. He's in the Ohio High School Athletic Association record book, where he's in the top whatever he is. So Brody Berg has to be mentioned in that. Steve, I don't know. We might have to go more than 10. It's going to be very difficult. We might have to do 20.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how hard it is to come up. And I'm sure we're going to get crap like we did with Kurt Shoemaker and the Daniel Rod, choosing between those two. We got just drilled at the golf outing when.
It's like
it's all in fun.
It's all in fun, but you have to look at different eras, and it's hard to compare. Just like everybody does the Jordan, LeBron James, which is not even close.
Right, I agree.
But when you think about it, like Sirianni, obviously just a legend.
Right.
I mean, they should have a statue of him down there. But some of these players that ran for Sirianni,
that's amazing.
and the numbers that they put up. All right, what if they were in the current system?
That's true.
I mean, think about think about Jake Andrews. What if he was able to run the ball like many times as Brody Burke? And that's no disrespect to Brody Burke, because he was unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it is the times, and you think about it, like when the Soriano years, there was a lot of times all they did was run the ball, and then when Timmy was a senior, they threw the ball a little bit more. Can you imagine stats for Timmy and all these other guys if they were under dry? So everything is different.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And you got to keep that. You got to keep that in mind. And it's just it's a hard thing to figure out who the top running backs are going to be.
All right. So let's go back to our era, because you basically got the late 90s and early.
Well, hold on. There's one guy that I'm going to mention right now that arguably I feel like is the best running back in Anderson High School history, and people are going to probably go nuts on this one.
Okay.
But he's got to be considered in this, and there's going to be debate of whether he's number 1, number 2, number 3, or in the top 5 is Slater.
Well, I don't think there's any debate on that.
Yeah.
He's top 3 at the worst,
And unfortunately, he no longer with us. He passed away, and but he's one of those guys that he was unbelievable to watch.
All right, I got a couple names, then we'll go back to our era. Elijah Story.
That's another one I was going to be. That was with the Jeff Keysting era.
When they won a championship. Won the state championship.
Yeah.
Who else? I just had another name. Ryan Josephowski.
It's Josephowski. You had him. We talked about Joe Sherrill. I mean,
let's go back to the 80s.
Oh man, see, that's hard because we were bad. And we ran the ball, but we just couldn't gain any yards. I mean, a guy that I had that when he was good, but he got hurt a lot, Rob Adams. I don't know if you remember Robbie Adams was pretty good, but he got hurt, and I don't even know if he played. And then, I'm just trying to think of some. I'm trying to think of some of the other running backs.
What did Scott Michelle play?
He played running back.
Okay.
Yeah, he played running back, but he didn't. He didn't get the ball a lot because it was just a different. Like you said, different era and different things that they did. But Scott, we called him Tiny. He was good running back.
Would you consider, because you played back then, would you consider like now it's so much faster?
Absolutely.
The game.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, think about this. When we call plays in, I don't know why, but Stowe called them in with the tight ends, which I still can't figure that one out. So I would shuttle in plays, depending if he wanted to keep both of us in. Sometimes he did. Most of the time it was with the tight end. But Stowe would sit there and literally grab the back of my shoulder pads, and he would call a play, and then he'd start to run away, and he'd grab you back. He goes, no. And then, so you do that. So with Dreyer, it's you get the ball, snap it, go, bam. Like him, it was really you're dragging it out. I mean, it was like basically with Stowe was run right, run left, and then we punted.
Which was the old Ohio State way.
Yeah, it was definitely Ohio State, and we couldn't do that. We just couldn't do it. Anderson had such great athletes back in the day, obviously, because that's what Soriano was told by, Lou Sankar from Florida, and he turned their fortunes around, and it was just change of a mindset and change of an attitude.
Yeah. All right, so anybody else from the 70s or 80s you can think of? I'm trying to think of the John Raymond or Greg were here.
I'm sure they would. And see, Nicky Tarpoff was a quarterback. He was
right.
But I'm sure there's guys out there that I just don't know in the 70s. That's the whole thing why we're trying to do this. Is like we don't know guys in the 70s and how they were. I don't really remember them. In the 80s, I'm sitting there trying to think of some of the running backs that we had in the 80s, and I really don't remember any standouts that I can come up with right now. I mean, Jimmy Bell was a running. See, that's what's weird too. Is like Jimmy Bell was a running back his junior year, senior year he's quarterback.
Right.
So you didn't know how good Jimmy Bell could have been, and Jimmy Bell was more of a bruiser back. He wasn't. So there's just guys that changed positions.
Right.
Didn't know, and then you got Kenny Rydell was a quarterback. So you got these you got these quarterbacks that run the ball. Kenny Rydell,
right.
Kurt Shoemaker ran the ball. I mean, but you can't consider them. Can you consider them running backs? No, you can't, because that's not the position they had. So there's a lot of guys that ran the ball, very well. So it's going to be tough. So it'd be interesting to see what everybody says.
Well, obviously we need help.
Yeah, we do. We'll pile together, and it should be fun to do. And but we're looking forward to that.
List, though. That's a great start.
And we're going to go ahead. We'll do a live. We're going to do a live podcast with that one, because what we're going to do is we're going to put their picture up, talk about them, maybe throw some some stats up there, kind of see what they're going. And we can have people actually chime into us as a podcast going on to see how it's going. You know, kind of like we would basically like if we're at the UC Clermont game.
Right.
You know how I interview you?
Sure.
We're basically doing that, and then I'm able to show highlights, or I can show whatever we want. So that's kind of what we're going to try to do.
That's cool.
See if we can do that. But we need everybody to get out there to help us out and let us know, what they think. And again, don't forget to subscribe down there at the button. But we'll talk about that here in a minute. So
you wanted to?
Oh yeah, real quick. I want to talk about this real quick.
Yeah.
So I saw Charles Barkley last night on the broadcast, and he said something about if Alabama won that game, that he said they're not going to have enough Natty Light and Pabst Blue Ribbon for Alabama. So I wore my Little Kings because I was talking about one of the first beers I drank was a Little Kings. You and I had some Little Kings.
Yeah, didn't work out.
And hams. That was
hams. Oh my God.
What about you? What was was it something that your dad had or something that you might have?
Shooty Delight.
Shooty Delight was a big one.
Shooty Delight was big, and for whatever reason, you had to put salt in it.
I never did that. But that was a Quatman Cafe.
That's what we drank.
That's what we drank because that's all they had on tap was Shooty Delight. So we drank. I mean, we drank that with Denny Peters and Jim Gromfeld.
Oh my gosh,
all those guys. Joey Sanker.
Yeah.
That was a fun time for us. But yeah, Shooty Delight, and we didn't care back then what we drank, did we?
No. Especially the Little
Kings. Yeah, little small. I mean, you felt like crap too.
Yeah.
I mean, it just wasn't good. So I just thought that was funny with Charles Barkley saying that,
Where did you get that shirt? Velveteen?
No, the Cincy. Back in the day, yeah. No, it was at that Cincy T-shirts. They had Shooty shirts and everything, so I got that from there. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, so okay, we thank everybody again for watching, and we're excited for our podcast. We're going to have Pat Williams is going to get delayed a little bit. He had some conflict with us, so we'll get his on there, and we've got some more in the works. We got we've got a couple other. We got some Barry Wolf that was a former player and a coach. And we got Adam Bigelow that's going to come on with us too. Yep. So we got some former players that come on. We got some positive energy podcast with Pam Moon and I'm going to draw Janice. We're going to have her on and to talk about that. So we got a lot more good podcasts, and then we were in the works of trying to get one more I'm out of here guys with Dan Carroll and Jason Kiefer.
Sure,
kind of combine things and help them out. They're going to help us out. We're going to try to get them on, talk about their podcast. So we'll hopefully get all those guys in there. But again, this would not be possible without you guys and also our sponsors. Again, we want to thank our sponsor for today is Burn Boot Camp Anderson Township. This is a great time to check out because right now you'll get everything that a full-blown member gets for free for 7 days. That's one-on-one personal training in a group setting, child watch for kids 8 weeks to 12 years, intense and varied workouts, great mix of strength and cardio as you get a full workout.
And you can attest for that.
Yes, and I really can. And I'm going to miss it because I'll have my surgery coming up and I can't go for a couple of days, so it's going to absolutely kill me. But check out this community, give them a call or text them at 513-600-2518 to get signed up today and tell them that Dingo the Coach sent you. And also be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel here below. We'd really appreciate it. The more we get, the better it's going to help us out to keep these podcasts rolling, to bring them out to everybody. For our 3 podcasts that you see back here are signed by Randy Corbett and Corbett Graphics. Thank you for doing that. We really appreciate it. You got the Dingo the Coach, This Week in Anderson, and Positive Energy Podcast. Again, anybody out there that has any topics that you want to talk to us about on all 3 of those, just let us know, and we really appreciate it. And Steve, tonight we got your thing. Looking forward to that. That should be a fun to kind of celebrate your team, and we talked about that today. So as always, it's been great doing this, Steve. I really appreciate it.
Well, you are the man for setting this up, and we've had just great responses that a lot of people, we didn't realize that were actually watching it and look forward to it. So we want to keep it going, and we like it as much as everybody that watches it.
Yeah, so it should be fun, and we're looking forward to it. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up our show here. So for Dingo and Coach, I am Dingo, and that is Coach Steve Ellis. You've been listening to Dingo and Coach. We'll catch you next week.